welcome to Literary Soul Sisters. I almost said the Untamable Life. I was like, wait, no.
No, wrong one.
I mean, this is the channel, but it's like, no, this is not the show that we're talking about.
Right.
One of these days, I will be able to get my thoughts correctly before we start things.
Girl, it's early. It's early. Don't fret. So how is everyone this morning? I'm frantically trying to find a Passions in the Lord of the Rings because I forgot to do it before the show because we're professionals.
We are professionals.
Right?
All right, while you're looking that up, I'm going to say hi. Hi, Kaylee.
I see all of you. Hi, thank you for being here.
Wall. What's up, Roman? Good morning. First, I'm just really happy I know the characters you're discussing today. It's a small win for my mostly confused elder brain. Yes!
We're happy. Well, save that thought, Roman. You will be more confused probably than any other chapter by the time we're done.
What's up? I can never properly say that.
The Thad that shouldn't be.
I'm just going to say shouldn't be.
Okay. I literally only know that because he's always on Salty's stream and Salty says his name all the time. So for the longest time, I would just look at his name and be like, yeah, I have no idea what your handle is.
Hi, Lulu. Hi, Lady Marine. What is up, the creative blue-collar guy? What is up, everyone? How are you all doing today? Oh, I can't believe it. Oh my gosh, I can pronounce this right. The tree. I'm just gonna say the tree.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
We're horrible.
I know that
we call
ourselves tree.
You know what? Hold on. You know what? Like last night, I was watching Johnny64's Twitch stream, and I was like, okay, guys, I gotta go. I gotta read my chapter for my Literary Soul Sisters and stuff. And I typed in the chat, I've got to go read about Celeborn and Galadriel. That man said Celeborn, and I was like, your Tolkien card is officially revoked. How dare you? But also, we can't pronounce that name, so I think our Tolkien card is going to get revoked.
I never admitted to having a Tolkien card, okay? I'm C.S. Lewis all the way.
You have one now, lady. All right.
Hi, Daisy. How are you doing today?
Hi, Daisy.
Hi, Bob. I'm just going to say Bob.
Yeah.
Hi, Sarah. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Let's see. If it helps you remember H.P. Lovecraft from Metallica, take that. Take the thing that should not be. Okay, the thing that shouldn't be. Okay. Elijah, you watched my part on the stream? This is Cajun.
I did. I was in and out, Cajun, because I was walking my dogs. I was getting ready to work out, so I saw like part of your stream. You guys, I don't know if you were there for the full 10 freaking hours that Johnny was live. Yeah, that man's insane. I don't know when he sleeps, but so I was there for the first 2 hours. The other 8? I was like, yeah, I got to dip.
Oh man. I had a thought somewhere. Oh yes, Cajun. Yes, you will not be kicked off my channel for talking about silkies. But please do not derail the entire stream because my brain is the size of a squirrel, and I'll just go, ooh, shiny.
And you got to hear my voice. Yes, I heard your voice, Cajun. It was nice. And since Johnny said that he would be happy to play Fortnite with me, hopefully we will play together in the future when I get this damn capture card thing. So I need to figure out which one to get.
So, Elijah, I thought I had first dibs on playing Fortnite.
You do. I just, someone needs to teach me. Let's just put it this way. I don't care who it is. Just someone needs to teach me how to play this damn game.
I got you, girl. I got you.
Okay.
Don't you worry. We will learn how to play Fortnite together because I stink at it so much.
Good, because I will too, because I have no sense of aim whatsoever. My hand-eye coordination is non-existent.
Wonderful. I won't feel so
fantastic.
bad.
All right. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll make you feel really good about yourself.
I did like okay yesterday for my 6-hour stream. Yeah, I did a 6-hour stream. Why do I keep doing this to myself?
Good heavens. You guys
One of these days, I'm going to just tell Ark no. Be like, no, Ark. Hopefully the stream will act like the mental dream to dissolve the oily cred known as the Obi-Wan Kenobi TV show from my mind and my soul. Oh, man.
Hopefully. We'll see. You guys, if anyone watches my Instagram stories, you will know I had a slight meltdown about Elrond and Celebrian. So don't worry. I'll be talking about that this morning because I'm still heartbroken.
Bye, Cajun.
Bye, Cajun. Have a good day.
Get good now before you stream, or let the fans watch you learn the game live.
Oh, Shield wall. That's just
Oh.
because the thing is, here's the thing. I downloaded Fortnite. I have no idea how to start it. I don't know how to pick the character. I'm so confused. So someone's gonna have to help me do that as well.
Worked 5 hours, now I'm running errands. We're in a house. I'm excited to get to listen to this live finally. Yes, Sarah! Yes. Sarah's one of my IRL friends. She is proudly Minnesotan. Don't you know?
That's funny.
She's gonna kill me later. What is it, dear?
Hi, Sarah.
Husband says hi. Oh my gosh.
All right. We should probably get into the things about why we're actually here.
Are we here just to hang out, man?
Just to talk, just to shoot it.
Oh man. Yes, but Tolkien and Galadriel and Celeborn. Y'all, if you're keeping up with us in the Unfinished Tales in this book, this section of this book, we love this section, but I was questioning everything I knew.
Yeah. Okay, so
everything.
I know, right? Everything. I was like, is Lord of the Rings even real? What's real? I think it's hysterical that we brought this up, that Christopher, in the opening of this book, he literally says,
I don't know what's going on, man.
Yeah, that he literally says, of all the stories of the Second Age in Middle Earth, the history of Galadriel and Celeborn is so interwoven with the other histories that it is one of the most vital stories of the Second Age. And then the second he opened, the opening of this chapter, hold on, I gotta get it because I was like, excuse me? He literally says, and it must be admitted that there are severe inconsistencies embedded in the traditions, or to look at the matter from another point of view, that the role and importance of Galadriel only emerged slowly, and that her story is underwent continual refashionings. And I was like, wait, hold on. So it's the most important, but it's also the most convoluted. That makes no sense.
It's like, she's one of the most important characters, but you don't realize it till later on.
Excuse me? So prepare to be as confused as we are, because it's not that strong compared to Minnestones that never moved. Oh,
yes.
Funny.
What is up, A Force Legacy, or lovingly known as Ryan AF? Oh man, but yeah, this was confusing and convoluted, and yeah, so here's what I did, guys. And I regret this. I had a lot, few hours of free time, Friday, and I think it was Wednesday? Yeah, Wednesday or something. And I sat down and read all of it in one sitting.
Yeah.
And then later on, I'm just like, what did I read?
Towards the end there, when he was talking about the Elisar, I was like, what part of Lord of the Rings is actually real then? I was like, is all of this still under revision? Yeah, this is a lot. It's a lot to absorb. And I paid the most attention to this chapter that I've paid of anything, because I knew it was going to be so important. And it's funny how so much of what we talked about, especially last week with the Numenorian guy whose name I can't pronounce.
Something.
He's literally in here. Him and his dad are in here. And then reading it now from Gil-galad's perspective and from Galadriel's perspective, I'm like, oh my God, that makes so much more sense. Now I understand why Gil-galad is like, I need you to come back. Please come back and bring a force with you. Please come back. Please come back and tell your father.
Do it! The deeper dive you take into Tolkien's work, you realize he had so much depth to his Legendarium that even he probably was frustrated that he would never complete everything.
Yes, that is accurate. I totally, absolutely 100% agree with that statement.
He probably is writing man, can I just stop here? And then he stops there and 5 years later, oh wait, I shouldn't have stopped there. Ah!
Right? And poor Christopher. And you know what's kind of sad is throughout this chapter, Christopher is like, my father wrote this literally in the last month of his life, and his handwriting is so illegible that he it took him forever to decipher it. That's I was like, oh, that's kind of sad.
Well, even that's crazy. Even up to Tolkien's passing, he was still writing stuff.
I know, it's incredible. Literally the last month of his life, he was still writing. talk about
So
dedication.
the book that Tolkien never wrote.
BS. BS. Yeah.
Just makes you kind of
Scratch
sit
your head a
there
little
and ponder
how on earth that could be.
The actual arrogance of these people is just mind-boggling.
It is. It absolutely
but
is.
also, on the same token, Tolkien, a lot of Tolkien's characters in the second and first age, the one thing that is known about them is their pride. Like, as we're going to discuss later on, Galadriel was just as prideful as every single other person in Middle-earth.
Yeah. Yeah, that is so much definitely a theme. But you know what's interesting? I think that, like, and again, we'll get into this. Tolkien, I think, had the intention to make them grow. I think that was like all, because you can see it with Galadriel, like, big time, that he made her grow, which I thought was incredible.
Except for Turin. Poor Turin just...
Poor Turin.
He just looked over and just died.
Just died.
He's like, sword, just take me now. And the sword's like, yes, please.
I will do that.
Like, we're done. I'm done with this.
I don't like you anymore. So anyways, yeah, so that we will definitely get into that. But I think you're right. I think pride is the overarching theme of the first and second age. And then by the third age, everyone had their ass so thoroughly kicked that they're like, yeah, we need to take a step back. You know what I mean?
Yes, I think one of the good things, like, as far as Tolkien's writing of enemies, I really like how he makes them great equalizers, so to say. Like, these people can be so prideful and so arrogant, but then Melkor or Sauron comes in and is like, we're going to strip you of all of that pride, don't you worry.
For sure.
And then they just go crazy.
Yeah. And then they just are driven to insanity.
I mean, being prideful, being insane.
Yeah. But you know, the one person who didn't go insane was Celeborn, and God love him for that. At least he he more or less kept his mouth shut. So, anyways, okay, do we want to start with news, or do we want to start with this?
This is how you properly treat books, ladies and gentlemen.
This one's gonna break by the time this spine is so broken on this book. It's literally gonna fall apart by the time we're done.
Yeah.
I've never beaten up a book this badly before, and as you can see, it's officially fuzzy.
See, I need to get me some of those little tab things, because I just like I know I shouldn't do this. I dog ear pages and stuff, and this is what okay.
Dollar store. I got this whole thing from the dollar store. So yeah, that's where I get mine. So anyways, all right, news. Let's get into a little RIP book. Yes, that is accurate, Lulu. RIP my book. But I've got 5 other copies back here, so it's fun. Because I have a problem.
You can give some of that problem to me if you want.
No joke. If I come across good used copies at my thrift shop, I'll send them to you, lady. Like,
yes.
No worries.
One of the themes for the Noldor elves is their pride kept them from following Fëanor, or kept them following Fëanor and the vow many of them took, even after things like kingslaying, endless war with Morgoth. Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely sad.
The third age seems to be, to me, like the world is just sitting on the bones of a greater time. Maybe like how Dark Age Britain might have felt. Yeah,
that's a really good comparison. That's actually like really, especially I have to admit, I didn't finish all the appendices. I agree, Sarah.
I'm sorry.
Reading the last which appendice did I stop on? I didn't get to all the appendices. Oh, it was Appendix B, the Cendarian Princess and the Sylvan Elves. I'm like, Thranduil makes so much more sense now. I was like, oh, the Hobbit makes so much more sense. That's interesting.
Well, also, it makes a lot more sense for Celeborn to hate dwarves.
Yeah.
Like, his hatred of dwarves. Like, he wouldn't follow his wife somewhere because he hated dwarves.
Oh, dude. That was harsh.
I'm like, dang!
I know. That was kind of harsh that he was like, yeah, no, I'm not going. You can. I'm going to stay here.
Not only do you smash the books, Bob, you smash that like button.
Yes, please smash the like button. Okay. News. Let's get into some news, shall we?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, do you want to start with the Fjordwaith or the language?
Language.
Okay, I skimmed this. Can you see that? It's like, oh, what is happening? Stop.
Ah!
Strobe light. Let's try that again. That was weird. Never had
Take
that happen.
2.
Okay.
We are professionals.
Oh, my computer.
All right.
So this.
And what is the for those of you who might only be listening in audio? I was pointed out that we need to do better about describing the things we're talking about.
All right.
So what is this article that we have pulled up?
So it's the linguistic detail in Amazon's Lord of the Rings of Amazon's Rings of Power that reassures Tolkien fans. And I read this and I was like, I'm missing the reassurance part. So basically, what this article goes into is like, and we see it in this chapter, like there's a whole appendices on like the breakdown of how Tolkien formed his titles, like Belfast, what is, I can't remember how to say it, and then like Amroth, it was like, well, it's also a river and a person, and then Celeborn is also a tree, but it's also a person. So it's like Tolkien took great care to like form the etymology of Middle Earth, and this article is supposedly supposed to tell fans that J.D. Payne and Patrick McKay have taken into great consideration the linguistic style that is Tolkien, and like apparently they're now doing an even better job than Peter Jackson.
What?
Yeah, I ain't kidding. I am not joking. And here's the kicker. And so go away.
That pose that he makes, it's just like, yes, darling.
Right. Like, could you be
reminds me of Edna Moe, like, yes, darling.
Edna Moe, oh my gosh, that's funny. Okay, this is the part that killed me. Both Patrick and I have religious backgrounds. I spend a lot of rare time reading those sacred texts. Tolkien's sometimes will play with in that kind of sandbox. We even came up with hero meters for each of the different races in Tolkien. Some of them will speak in iems. Some of them will speak in didactyls.
Yeah, I think didactyls.
Some of them will speak in Torch. I don't even know what that is, and I'm like,
you're a literary person. You should know these things.
No, I'm a historian. I'm not a literary person.
Oh, so we should not worry. I feel better already.
I feel so much better. But what I'm like, okay, you know what? That's fine. If you're actually going to that certain length and extent, great. However, to say that you're going to do a better job than Peter Jackson of adapting Tolkien's writing style into speech and the way his, like, I'm sorry, if you listen to the way King Theoden speaks in the Two Towers in the book, it's like, it's so like, I don't know how to describe it, but it's just incredible to hear King Theoden speak, and Aragorn is too. But I feel like the Rohan, they have like a certain speech pattern that's like really high.
How are they supposed to mimic Tolkien if they don't have any interest in his books?
Boom!
That is the question. Ding, ding, ding. I would give you a cookie if I could, but
and also, there is a point in here, because I don't want to read the whole thing. I mean, it's a little bit short, and I'll put it in chat. But there's a part here in the bottom that I definitely want to get to. My train just went off the rails. What was I saying?
Articles too long.
Oh, okay. That Christopher Tolkien, before he died, set it up. Now, this gets into if they're going to respect anything, and I doubt they will. That Christopher Tolkien said that he really was always annoyed with way Peter Jackson repurposed lines to different characters in different places, like Tom Bombadil. Treebeard gets some of those lines. A line that Celeborn said in Lothlorien, Treebeard got a lot of lines. People said different things in different places, and lines were given to different characters. That he set it up that they can't take lines from Lord of the Rings and repurpose them into the Rings of Power and give them to those give them to those characters. But the thing is, in here, I don't. There was something in here, and I'm sorry, I can't find it. But that I don't know if they're going to respect that. Which again, how shocking! But I know, but
those guys look like they're trying to decide which bespoke craft beer to order at a hipster rooftop.
Yes, they
do.
But yeah,
what
but
is
they
up,
also.
Phil?
Hey Phil, so but in here also, so they indicate that they may not be respecting that. And then they go into this thing that like actually Tolkien's made up languages really aren't that important.
What?
In a nutshell,
He literally spent his entire life creating a language for his he created his Legendarium for his languages that he made.
Yes, he wrote the language
first.
Yes, and then we hit the mythos. They're like, it's actually not all that important. They like, if you read between the lines, it's essentially what they're saying. Like they're saying like Quenya and Cendarian are important. But like I just got the sense that they're trying to say like, that like Tolkien's languages just aren't that important. So I'm like, so you're simultaneously saying that the way Tolkien writes speech is really important and you're going out of your way to honor that. Mm-hmm. But now all of a sudden his made up languages, they're like, big deal.
Did I mishear that? A diactyl is a chemical compound that means something like containing 2 or more actyls and they smell like butter. What does that have to do with languages? I don't know. Maybe we mispronounced the word.
And that's his entire here. The Thad, I'll DM this to you on Twitter, but that's what they said.
The Lambic Pentameter. Why are y'all throwing these big words at me?
Pentameter.
Or rhythms of speech. It's saying that some characters will speak like Shakespeare and others will speak in other rhythms.
Yeah.
Like types of poetry. Oh! Okay.
I knew that in the back of my head, but I couldn't like formulate it into words. So thank you. Words are hard at this point in time. And then, okay, so what I find interesting about this last part, so I'll put this article out. I'll put it in chat so you guys can read it for yourselves. They go into so I'm not on Reddit. I know nothing about Reddit. I've never been on Reddit. But I know that subreddits are banning anyone who sets a toe out of line, who disagrees that the the Rings of Power will be good. Like people like us, they're getting banned right, left, and center. They go out of their way to say that everybody on Reddit is so on board with everything that's happening in the Rings of Power. I was like, oh,
everyone will be on board if you kick the people off the board.
Yeah, well, they don't. Well, they conveniently don't bring up that they're banning people, which I find. I was like, oh, it's that convenient. There's the link, guys, if you want to read it. So I don't know, just like this linguistic detail that apparently is supposed to make us feel better, but then they simultaneously go out of their way to say like Tolkien created one too many languages and we kind of don't care. I was like, are you serious?
Well, so here's the thing that sometimes gets me on it's hypocrisy is they're always talking about diversity and inclusion, meaning have all of these diverse people in here, different languages, blah blah blah, diversity. Here is a perfect opportunity to have diversity in a show with about like a bajillion different languages that anyone could speak at any point in time. Like you literally could have so much cool diversity and it would be lore friendly. But no, it's like, we're gonna be lazy. Laziness.
But they apparently have read the Bible, so we should all feel better. And Shakespeare. They've read the Bible and Shakespeare.
Yeah, Reddit basically has become a leftist deconstruction bastion of crap. Yes. So, I mean, I've read the Bible a few times.
Just a few times.
Just a few times. And I get something like it. You can't notice all of the different things in the Bible by just reading it one time. Like if you've read the Bible one time, you don't get it. You don't get anything that you get maybe like an aspect of what the Bible's talking about.
The thing is also, did you read this in Sunday school or did you read it last week?
Right.
That's my question.
And which
Because-
Shakespearean play? You talking about Hamlet? You talking about
King Lear?
Romeo and Juliet? You talking about
Taming of the Shrew? Which one? Tell me which one.
Which play have you read? Which like there's many of them.
Yeah, Henry
So.
V. I would take Henry V. Maybe.
Yeah.
You know. So
it's a little bloody, you know.
a little bloody. Well, Second Age is pretty bloody.
That is true. That is true. I will say this now: if this show is actually good, I will be the first to say so. But the way they are promoting this show does not give me hope. Agreed.
Yep. Agreed.
If it's good, I will literally change. Like I will sing its praises from the rooftops. I will make videos praising it, which I'm probably going to do review videos of this anyway because I'm a masochist. Bless you.
Thank you.
But and because people have asked me to do reviews on this.
Yeah.
So I will
about that.
I will do reviews because I need more content for my channel. Because one of these days I'll start doing Witcher reviews again. I'm stuck on that one episode. I just can't right now. But anyway, if it's good, I will say it's good.
Yeah, same here.
I will sing its praises. I will say, hey, everyone, we were all wrong and we're all idiots. Come back.
Yeah. No, totally. I am not above eating my crow in any way, shape, or form. So.
Yeah. Seems like people in Hollywood love to say, we love this franchise, then take a massive dump on it. Yes. Yep. It's like, we love it, but we want to make it more like us. Then what? No, if you love something, you let it be.
No kidding.
Let it be free. I also read the Bible and Shakespeare. This does not make me an expert on Tolkien. Yes, Daisy.
Well said, Daisy.
Which version of the Bible? King James has higher forms of English than the NIV, so reading the Bible doesn't lend them credit. Exactly. Also, my personal favorite translation is the New American Standard because it's closest to the Greek and the Hebrew. Yeah. And whenever I was in college, I did Greek, and that was what my Greek professor said. So,
yeah, I have the American Standard. Like my study Bible is the New Living, which isn't great. They changed a lot of words, so I have the American Standard as well. But I grew up on the King James, and you're right. Between those three versions, they're so different.
If you want a lot of Shakespearean talk, yes, the King James is your version. For that. And see, but how can the show stay true to Tolkien's vision if they have to make it completely with the ESG and push identity politics and remind people how bad their ancestors were or were treated?
Yeah. So, anyways, all right. So should we get into the book, or do you want to cover anything else?
I'm looking over here. Yeah, I still can't find that thing that they talked about on Friday Night Tights. So,
we'll save it for next week.
Yes, for those of you who are fans of Nerdrotic and Friday Night Tights, it was not this Friday. It was last Friday. They talked about an article about Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power. We're going to try and discuss that next week if I can find the article they were referencing. So yeah. Let's see. For Tolkien reference purposes, you want to use the Catholic Bible, especially prior to Vatican II version. Yes.
That's also accurate. Absolutely.
Yes. Okay, but yes. Onwards to Galadriel and Celeborn, what you all have been here waiting for. And for those of you maybe just listening in or just, joining us for the first time, we are going through the Unfinished Tales. That is what we are reading, and we are discussing at this moment the history of Galadriel and Celeborn. So that for those of you keeping up with us or have the book and want to start reading it, that's where we're discussing today.
Yeah, this was a lot of information to unpack. And again, like I said in the beginning, Christopher literally says that this is, of everything of his father's writing, this is the most convoluted and that was undergoing the most revision, even up until literally the last month of his life, which again is sad. I don't know.
Sorry, I came in late. Making an epic interest. Did I impress you?
I guess I'm not quite sure I know what you're referring to.
Oh well. Also, we realize there's a book in here that's referenced a couple times. We're not sure. So the history of Galadriel and Celeborn. So one of the things that when we were discussing is it seems like there is a book out there somewhere or some short story or something that this is referencing, or it could just be referencing itself.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, and I think we both have decided we both want to get the road that goes ever on.
Yes.
Which I don't really know what that is. I've heard about it a long time ago. That if you know what the road that goes ever on actually is, if this is like a really early version of Fellowship of the Ring, if you could tell us, that would be greatly appreciated, because he talks about it a lot, especially in the first few.
Yeah, and I've never actually even heard of it. The road that goes ever on, because it talks about that. Apparently, it talks a ton about Galadriel and Celeborn, because it says, the story distinct, in the story that goes ever on, the story is distinctively different. Mm-hmm. It's just like, what is this?
Yeah. So I definitely want to get this book.
I think it's a book of his poems and songs.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. Well, I'm going to get it. Regardless, I'm getting this book. I'm going to find it, and I'm going to get it, because I really want to read it now. Oh, and I guess now we have to read The Adventures of Tom Bombadil, because apparently they're mentioned.
Yes.
But it's a very short little book. It's not very long. It is on Audible. Yeah, it's on Audible. So I think we're going to need to read the Adventures of Tom Bombadil. But you're right. There seems to be several different books in here that are referenced, but it's not always explicit, what book we're being pointed to. Basically, if you read The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, you will see poems that Bilbo and other hobbits sing. Huh! It's called The Walking Song. Yeah. So, I know it's a song within the books, but there's a book called... Hold on.
Yeah, in a very late, primarily philological essay, certain written after the publication of The Road Goes Ever On, the story is distinctively different, and this is referring to Galadriel and her brother Finrod and stuff.
Hold on, here we go.
In the story, it's something Bilbo wrote.
Okay, well, here's a...
In real life, the poem was set to music, and its name, The Road That Goes Ever On, a cycle.
Hold on.
See, guys, we are learning things just as you guys are learning things, too. So, we will never proclaim to be Tolkien experts. Maybe we will be Tolkien, experts after we go through all of the histories and all of the books, but still.
So this is one copy of it. I found a better copy last night. So
$60-some.
Yeah, but I found a different version last night, and I'm annoyed it's not coming up. So that's that book. Let's see.
The Adventures of Tom Bombadil is also the Tales of the Perilous Realms.
Oh, that's right. It is in my Book of Perilous Realms. Okay, that's right. That
poem became the title of the book collecting Tolkien's poems.
Okay. Oh, here we go. This is it. So I'm not getting this copy. I found cheaper copies, but this is it. And I really, really want this book.
The road goes ever on, a song cycle. Okay.
Yeah. But he talks, Christopher talks about it pretty extensively, that there's quite a bit of Galadriel and Celeborn's story in there. So I really want to get this, because if it's that obscure, I'm all for reading it, regardless of what it is. I don't care what it is. I just want it.
It has sheet music and notes. Oh, that's cool.
That's awesome. Oh, that sounds so cool. Okay, yeah, I'm going to find this book somewhere.
Please do.
To find it.
Yes, do. Also, you have a link to a thrift bookstore, right? Don't you? I always forget to put that in the descriptions. My apologies.
Well, it happened so recently. All right, you start talking. I'll get that link.
So more or less, kind of. and this is the best summary I can come up with, because this is a long bit of the book. Like, this is quite a bit. It goes from page 232 to, oh, I lost my bookmark, to 274. So it's a good little chunk right there. And most of it is actually like paragraphs of versions of Galadriel's story and Celeborn's story and how they met, and like just different versions of, like, more or less it's kind of Tolkien was brainstorming a few different ideas for, like, they, do they have a son? Do they not have a son? How did they actually meet? Was Celeborn actually in Valinor? Was he not in Valinor? Was he a Teleri elf? Was he a Cendarian elf? Like just
was
kind of
Galadriel actually banned? Was she too prideful to go back? Did she get a pardon or did she reject? Like, there's a lot of back and forth.
Yes. So that's kind of, this section goes a lot into, well, my father thought about doing this, I guess, backstory for Galadriel and Celeborn. And then he was like, maybe he will, in this version of this book, which the song, the road that it goes ever on, he refers to that saying, it was actually in this book, it said this thing, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Turn to page 394. Wait, wrong genre. Turn to page 394.
There you go.
Sorry.
Well done. And it's interesting, like, he says that what's in here, he's like, some of this directly contradicts what's in the Silmarillion, but we left it as is. We didn't bother to change it. Like, I just published it the way my father wrote it. And he basically says, like, in these writings, you would come across something and like a sentence would be marked out and there'd be something in the margin where it would change. And he's like, well, it would directly contradict the Silmarillion, and I didn't know what to do. So he's like, just this is kind of, these are all the inconsistencies in Galadriel and Celeborn's story. But I still appreciate that he took the time to even publish these inconsistencies, because a lot of this is really important.
Yes, and also, like, if you're a writer, you're gonna have different versions of stuff, like, as you're brainstorming which one works best. And so, like, but they're still, at the end of the day, there is certain canon like that is published, like the Silmarillion. If it contradicts the Silmarillion, Christopher says it's not canon because it contradicts the published works. Or if it contradicted something in Lord of the Rings, he's like, it's not canon, but this is an idea that my father had. I want you guys to know about it, kind of thing. Like, I think it's very useful and very helpful to kind of understand where, like, what Tolkien's thought process was when he was creating these characters, because it just gives so much more depth into what he was thinking about, how he was thinking this character would interact with this character. It's really good. But also, as far as like Rings of Power is concerned, because some of the arguments that people have said about Warrior Galadriel is that her backstory has several inconsistencies, and they would reference this book. The problem with that is they do not have access to this book. If they had access to this book, I wouldn't mind so much some of the inconsistencies with Galadriel's backstory, because I would understand. Like, if you only had access to this, I'd be like, good luck, man.
Yeah, have fun with that. Pick one. Just pick one.
Yeah, like, it's, if they had this book and they were like, well, we kind of wanted to go with this backstory for Galadriel. Sorry, guys. I know it's probably different than, Lord of the Rings, but here's what we, like, I would understand that. I'd be like, cool. Like, that's a different take on Galadriel. That's within Tolkien's, within one of Tolkien's books that we can discuss further. Like, that would be cool. But with the information that they have, they can't do that.
No. And even if they did have this, and we'll learn how to say your name one day. There is no point in time where she is climbing. Well, I mean, when they're crossing the what's it called? The ice.
The ice thingy. Something glacial.
No, she's not. Not in armor, especially. You know who? Well, we'll get there. Somebody is leading armies from the north and the south. But it's not her. We'll get there.
It's not. It's the pretty boy.
It's both of them.
Yes.
Both of them.
Yes.
His would-be son-in-law.
Yes.
I know, right? Swoon.
Yeah.
They make me swoon. All right. Anyways, so you guys should. I should have said this before. You guys should if this were later in the afternoon, I would say take a drink every time I say Elrond during this live stream. Because trust me, we'll get there.
Yes, because he is mentioned quite often.
He's alive.
He is not some dainty politician. He's leading armies.
And he's had his heart ripped out just a couple times.
Shield wall. I'm gonna guess it's a man doing it. Sexist.
Yes. You bigot.
How dare? How dare?
So I don't know. So this opens up. I think the first bit of this is talking about how Tolkien was changing his mind about how Galadriel leaves Valinor. And how that story
was really cool.
That was really cool. That it changed so drastically. I kind of like this new one that Celeborn was a Tolarian elf.
Yes.
Water. You'll be drinking water. Thank you very much. Celeborn was a Tolarian elf who she stood with against the kinslaying.
Mm-hmm.
And that they got away on a ship just themselves. Well, he didn't say if there were any other elves with them, but they got to Middle Earth before
Fëanor.
Fëanor, thank you. I was like, which F is it today?
Well, there's Fëanor, there's Finrod, there's Fingolfin.
Fudgesicle. What was with him in the letter F?
And he was the guardian of the Soulstone while fighting Neo. Yes, good references.
Well done.
Sir.
So I thought this was super interesting how her story and Celeborn's story evolved over time, that she met him in Middle Earth and she had to cross the frozen ice but I this is the one instance that we hear Tolkien say Galadriel was actually physically fighting against the kinslaying.
Yes.
She stood up with a sword in her hand. This is the only time that is explicitly stated. Everyone start typing Elrond to see how much elation you have. I will down this in 30 seconds.
But yeah, that's the only reference that we really have of Galadriel picked up a sword and started fighting against her own kin.
Yep.
Because technically her kin, it was also her kin. It was both of her kin fighting against each other, it's this thing. But yeah, it was there was a point where Tolkien wrote that Galadriel literally was always against Fëanor.
Yeah.
Always from the beginning. Did not like the dude because he had an evil or had a darkness in him or something.
Yeah. And I think this part here at the bottom of 233, Galadriel was the greatest of the Noldor, except Fëanor maybe, though she was wiser than he, and her wisdom increased with the long years. Literally, that's how important this woman is. Of all the Noldor, her and Fëanor are the most important.
Yes. And it's crazy the two, how similar but yet different they both were, because they're both prideful. If you see when we're reading Galadriel, she is very, very prideful. So it also makes it, when we get to the Lord of the Rings, when Frodo offers her the ring, and that's that, people don't understand how significant that act alone was, because we don't get a lot of backstory in the movies or even in the books. We don't get a ton of backstory on just the literal hell she's been through, and also the self-inflicted hell she's been through.
Oh, I know. That poor woman. God. Yeah, she and Elrond, man. No wonder they gravitated towards each other, because fudgesicle, they've been through a lot.
It's hey, hello, son-in-law.
Yeah. Let's talk.
Man.
Yeah, they've been through a lot. So yeah,
yes, in this account, we are shown that Celeborn may not have always been Fëanor's grandson. There were some parts of that where he was thinking of doing something different.
That was kind of hard to keep straight. I was like, wait, whose son is he?
Yes.
That was hard to keep straight. But it's also funny that here at the bottom of 234, but now she burned with a desire to follow Fëanor with her anger to whatever lands he might come, and to thwart him in all ways she could. Pride moved her at the end of days. Yeah. But yeah, so literally her one desire was to go to Middle Earth and make sure that she could just F up everything that Fëanor did. And I'm like, you go, girl.
Yeah, she's like, I don't like my cousin. I'm literally going to do everything against him.
Yeah. Yeah.
But at the same time, she still wanted to rule an area of her own. She still wanted to be a ruler.
And, I thought that was interesting. Ugh. It's not, but, I mean, yeah, maybe. That's entirely possible.
So maybe, Jeremy Swick says, maybe Elrond, nail mom and daughter, Amazon version and all.
Ugh. Gross. And probably,
I really only know Celeborn from the Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of War games.
Yeah. And what's funny? I thought it was Celeborn who asked Galadriel for 3 strands of her hair. It was Feanor to make. It was Feanor. I totally had those two mixed up. I thought it was Celeborn because he did love her, but it was Feanor who asked for her hair. And she's like, F off.
Nope. And he's like, if I can't have the hair, I shall have the jewels.
Which that just puts a whole other spin on the creating of the Silmarils. That, like, literally he was so pissed off that Galadriel wouldn't give him 3 strands of her hair that he made the Silmarils to spite her.
Basically. No wonder he loved them so much.
No kid. Nah.
It was creepy. He's a creeper. He's a creeper.
He is a creeper. Guys, I'm going to go back to my statement I said last week. I almost feel like you should read the Unfinished Tales before you read the Silmarillion.
Yes.
Because it sets up a lot.
Yes, Feanor. The whole thing with Galadriel giving Gimli 3 strands of her hair was a throwback to her refusing Feanor. Yeah. Or Feanor.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why that moment is so significant. And all of her ladies are like, what just happened? And
also, Celeborn, he hates dwarves. Yeah. He hates dwarves. And Galadriel gave strands of her hair to a dwarf. The irony.
I love that part in here. I don't know if I'm going to be able to find it. Hold on. And like literally, I think like when. Okay, now, none, lady, said Gimli. It is enough for me to have seen the Lady of the Galadriel and to have heard her gentle words. Hear all ye elves, she cried to those about her. Let none say again the dwarves are grasping and ungracious. Surely, Gimli, son of glory, you desire something I can give. Name it, I bid you. You shall not be the only guest without a gift. Okay, and he goes on. Okay, I do not ask for such a gift, but you command me to name my desire, asking for her hair. The elves stirred and murmured with astonishment, and Celeborn gazed at the dwarf in wonder, but the lady smiled. He's like, what? He's just like, see this dumbstruck look on Celeborn's face, like, what did that guy just say?
And like, for those of you, like, just a refresher, like, Celeborn literally did not follow Galadriel into a place because it was where dwarves were. No. He literally hated dwarves so much that he would not be in the same room with them if he could help it.
Let's refresher. The reason he hates dwarves so much is from in the Silmarillion that I think that is supposed to be canon. I think that was Tolkien's final, like, this is where Celeborn is from. He's from Doriath, which, if you remember, King Thingol had one of the Silmarils after Beren gave it to him, and he took it to the dwarves and was like, set this in a necklace. And the dwarves, because of their greed and pride for this jewel, killed Thingol, and that's when Doriath fell. Because of the dwarves, and Celeborn is a kinsman of Thingol, so he literally lost his kinsman in his entire world because of the dwarves. That's why when they arrive in Lorien, and like I think like Celeborn was ready to have like Gimli executed right then and there, and Galadriel's like, no, you can't do that. Calm down.
Why can't I highlight this? There we go. Really like Brimbor. He became one of my favorite elves, and his death was really sad.
We'll get there. It's really sad. It's really horrible. Are not the nicest people earlier in their existence either. Yeah, Thad, they're jerks. So and even here in this very early passage, we see that like I think Tolkien's whole intention as he refined Galadriel's character was to make her grow. Like, I feel like Galadriel is what Feanor and these other Noldorian elves should have been.
Right.
Because, like, at this, and then on 235, it says, at the end of the Elder Days, after the final overthrow of Morgoth, she refused the pardon of the Valar. And it's interesting that pardon, this is like a huge point of contention within Tolkien. I don't think he ever really settled on what was supposed to happen there. It was not until 2 long ages more had passed when at last all that she had desired in her youth came into her hand, the ring of power and the dominion of Middle Earth, of which she had dreamed, that her wisdom was full grown, and she rejected it, and passing the last test, departed Middle Earth forever.
Yes.
So, like, his intention, I think, was to make Galadriel what Feanor should have been, and could have been had he not let his pride destroy his life.
Yes. Because, like, one of the things that we constantly see, like, Tolkien was kind of back and forth on is Galadriel staying in exile because the Valar told her to, or because she is too prideful to leave Middle Earth. That's kind of what, like, this whole thing is. Tolkien was like, is Galadriel so prideful that she's staying in Middle Earth just because of her own will, or is her ban from the Valar still in place?
Yeah,
that's kind of the big flopping back and forth.
Yeah, and it just seems like it. I mean, like, I would say, in my humble opinion, that like the Silmarillion is final canon on that. But it's interesting. I mean, I'm inclined, just based off what's in the Silmarillion, I'm inclined to think that there was a ban on her. And that it was because, like you just said, because she rejected the rings of power, the Valar and Manwë were like, okay, you have grown. You understand your mistakes now. You're welcome to come back home. And that's why she left Middle Earth without her husband.
I think it just also adds more... it just makes that scene in Lord of the Rings adds more depth if it is because she is still banned. She is just there on her own free will, it kind of doesn't quite discredit when she rejects the ring, but it just doesn't have that same impact when you think about, like, she has been banned from her home all of her, like, ever since this has happened for 3 ages. She has been banned from her home where she grew up.
Yep.
And she's wanted to go back, but she can't because of the ban of the Valar. And, like, when she finally is able to go back, like, it just makes it even sweeter.
It does,
in my opinion.
Absolutely. So this first part is super interesting, and if you read this, you have to understand this chapter has more interjection from Christopher than any of the other chapters we've read thus far, because Christopher has to stop and explain so much, and I don't know how much we want to get into that, because that's where I got confused. I was like, because he goes back and forth on, like, is her brother Finrod, is he alive? Is he not? Did he do this? Was he estranged from his brothers? Like, and actually, how many brothers did Galadriel actually have? Like, there's a lot of speculation on Christopher's part to be like, I don't know what my father intended in this part. I'm letting you know that these are the inconsistencies I found.
Yeah, because, like, in if we take a second to think about, like, what if she stayed in Middle Earth just because she was that prideful, like, what? Because, like, one of the things that Tolkien also made sure to let us know is that the Noldorian elves are the most prideful SOBs out of all of the elves that he created. And so it would almost make sense that she did maybe half stay, just because she was like, well, if the Valar kicked me out, I'm just gonna stay out, kind of thing. Because it also talks about when she was given the ring, Nenya, right?
Yeah.
That it made her desire for the West more, like, greater and greater. But
yeah. Oh yeah, but that part was sad too.
Yes.
Immortal beings have a lot of kin. They got at it like jackrabbits. Well, in the first age they sure did. In the third age, they're like, yeah, no more kids.
Yeah, we're not procreating anymore. We've learned our lesson.
We're done. Yeah. So yeah, there's a part in here, I can't, where is it? When she received Nenya from Celeborn,
Mm-hmm.
I highlighted so many things that now I can't find it.
I guess we could talk about Celeborn, whether like because like in 236 a little into 237 there's a lot of talk of, well, he might have been a Teleri prince, he
Yeah.
might have been grandson of Aule, of Aquilonde. I can actually pronounce those words. Hey,
I know, I'm so proud of you. I'm like, you go, girl. I can't say any of this stuff.
And just whether or not like she met him because of the kinslaying, because there's two different versions of she met him, you know, in like during the kinslaying and she helped defend it, or there's another version where she met him in Doriath, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or
and that's in the Silmarillion.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and this is where we say, and this is like, and so in this version where Celeborn was in Valinor, he was a Telerian elf, he knew how to build ships and all the things. In Feanor's revolt that followed the darkening of Valinor, Galadriel had no part. Indeed, she with Celeborn fought heroically in defense of the Aquilonde against the assault of the Noldor, and Celeborn's ship was saved for them. Galadriel, desiring now to go from Valinor, horrified by the violence and cruelty of Feanor, set sail in the darkness without waiting for Manwë's leave, which would undoubtedly have been withheld in that hour, however legitimate her desire itself.
So it talks about that she had wanted to go to Middle-earth anyway, and she was kind of going to talk to Manwë at some point in time about going back to Middle-earth.
Yeah,
but then all of this craziness happened.
Yeah, and so this is like, that's literally the one time that we see Galadriel actually fighting.
So after the War of Wrath, weren't all the elves granted the return to immortal lands, and Galadriel decided to stay in Middle-earth? Yes. Yes.
That's in the Silmarillion.
Yes.
But in here, there's a totally different story.
And Bob, it's okay. We're also confused.
We're also deeply confused. Yes.
And then Feanor is a complicated character. Part of his personal geese come from the fact that Finwë stood alone against Ungoliath and Melkor when Melkor came for the Silmarils. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true.
And then, okay. Yeah, you're talking amongst yourself. I wonder how that would have changed the story, though, because, like, especially because Feanor scorned her and her, like, quote-unquote kin because he literally left them behind because they weren't, quote-unquote, committed. Yeah. And so, like, that would have changed that entire story. Like, how would that have happened? Like, would Feanor have left the other Noldorian elves behind, and you know, the ships burning?
Like, and that also would have changed how the appendices. So Celeborn had made a vow to never leave Middle-earth, and so in the movie we get this touching scene of him helping his wife on the boat. That does not happen in the book. Galadriel leaves without Celeborn because he's like, I'm not leaving. Like, I made a vow to stay in Middle-earth. And but then he did finally leave. In the appendices, we're told, after Arwen died, he left as soon as she died. And that's like why, you know, people say like how shocked all the gods must have been when all of a sudden here he comes on a ship that when there were no ships that were supposed to bear them over. Here comes Celeborn, like how shocking that would have been. So he made a vow, like that would really contradict what's in the appendices, that Celeborn told his wife, man, these two had like, like, I love you, but I'm not going with you.
Well, yeah, like, it's weird. Like, and that's also why I can understand people's inclination to think that Galadriel actually loved
Celeborn?
No, the wizard, Gandalf. Like, she actually loved him more than Celeborn, or Celeborn. Gosh, all of these names. Because like they were fond of each other when they were when she was in Valinor and stuff, and like it just their whole relationship, like her and Celeborn, is just interesting.
It is interesting. You know what? I think in our 21st century prose, what I would chalk it up to is that they're both very stubborn. They're both
probably.
very two strong-willed people.
Yeah.
So yeah, so like him being a Tolarian elf and like that would have changed a lot of things.
Mm-hmm. Man.
Because
Because like he's a Cendarian elf, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. I'm like, which elf is he actually? Like which house of elves? Oh man. As stubborn as Celeborn was, he eventually realized that something would randomly kill him, like an avalanche or some natural event, and he will wind up in Valinor anyway.
That's hysterical.
Oh man. One can only imagine how Olorian like.
So yeah, this part was really interesting, and you can see the evolution of like Tolkien's thought process as he's writing out these characters. Like, and I mean, what writer doesn't do this? Like, you know, change plots entirely to fit a better storyline. So yeah, this was cool, and I liked the idea of them like whisking away in the night on a boat.
That is cool. It would change so many things, but it is cool.
Yeah.
But also like just kind of a thought that occurred to me is because a lot of our quote unquote haters, the people who were shills for the Rings of Power, are using passages like this that are like, yeah, well, Galadriel's backstory and everything, you know, Tolkien was always changing things and always blah blah blah. But here's the main, like my main quote unquote point against that. All writers do that. Yeah. But there is a difference between some cool ideas and some, you know, like as you're writing things out and changing some story versus what is actually published, what is the official published canon. Because I can write a story, publish it, and then be like, maybe I want to make some changes and, you know, just in my own personal life, you know. I feel like that happened a lot. Like Tolkien was like, well, I could have done that better.
He literally says at the end of this chapter, oh, let me see. Oh, I'm going to be able to find it now. That in 58? the original publishing of the Lord of the Rings, there is a sentence about Celeborn that's later omitted in the revised edition because Tolkien had to go back and revise a lot because people were writing him and being like, "You're really inconsistent. You need to fix this." So he revised a lot of the Lord of the Rings, and so there's a part in the appendix that talks about Celebrimbor that also mentioned Celeborn, but then that was omitted. Mm-hmm. So there's like I want to find. I'm like, now I need a first edition of Lord of the Rings. I need to find this. I wonder if it's in that red.
I don't know if you'll I don't know. Those are probably going for a pretty penny.
Well, that red one that I found, so that's one of the U.S. editions, but that's from 1965. Mm-hmm. So that might have it. I should look. I should have looked beforehand. But anyways, so yeah, I mean, like he was even the published books themselves. Tolkien's like, yeah, I need to fix that.
And that's fine, but it's just one of those things. Like I'm so frustrated with the people who are saying, "Well, he had inconsistencies, though, so that gives us the right to do whatever the heck we want." Like, no, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. No, like people are allowed to make mistakes, even authors and writers. Like people can make mistakes.
And remember what I said? I think it was when we started this book. That Christopher said his father was going out of his way to write inconsistencies between the first, second, and third ages, because when Frodo gets to Lothlorien, he makes this comment, and he said it so eloquently, I'm going to butcher this, but it was essentially that within Middle-earth, within the mythos itself, only the wise would remember exactly what happened. That as you pass things down through generation, especially of mortal men, that things get lost in the retelling. Things get embellished, things that you forget certain parts of the story. That Tolkien went out of his way to make his stories inconsistent because that's what happens with literature. That's what happens with an oral history tradition. It's what they, only the elves really had written language, and then later the Eldar, whatever. Eladine later when the elves taught them. So Tolkien, like literally that's like that was his desire to make things inconsistent, because by the time we get to the War of the Ring, a story about Hurin would have been changed who knows how many times. You know what I mean? So I think that's an interest. Like, who thinks of that?
Right. I think it's Celeborn's native language being Tolkien, which indicates he was originally a wood elf. I know Tolkien changed that for later editions. Yeah. He was originally when he was originally written. He was supposed to be a Teleri elf, but later on he became kinsman to Thingol, and Thingol is a Cendarian elf. So in order for him to be a kinsman of Thingol, he had to be Cendarian, unless there was some other crazy stuff going on, like interbreeding and marrying and stuff like that. But I don't think.
And on 240, like, just going back to what you're saying about like these shills and the showrunners themselves cherry picking things. I've heard this part come up a lot about the dwarves of Khazad-dûm. That Galadriel looked upon the dwarves with the eye of a commander, seeing in them the finest warriors to pit against the orcs. Just because you look at something with the eye of a commander does not mean you yourself are in armor. Let's just be clear about that. Yeah, morning arc.
Right. This is just if you are a natural leader, people who are natural leaders can look at a group of people with the eye of a quote-unquote commander. Because you are a leader, you can see that person has this strength, that person has this strength. If that person were put in this place, they could do great things. If that person was put over here, they could do great things. Like, that's what it means to have an eye of a commander, is can see and you can lead them.
Yeah, because remember, okay, so I just read that Tolkien, she was more wise than Fëanor. Of all the Noldorian elves, she and Fëanor were the wisest and the most whatever. And that she had spent all that time in Doriath under Thingol and Melian. Go back to our earlier discussions about how wise Thingol and Melian were. That she would have
Melian's a Maiar. She's a god. She literally learned from a god. Yes, goddess.
So, like, Galadriel is very wise. She's prideful, but she's wise. And so to like have them cherry pick out, like, again, and I'm like, you don't have access
to this.
So how can you say that she was a commander of northern armies when you? So, anyways,
I don't like how everyone is attacking Peter Jackson too, even though he made some significant changes. He still had the utmost respect for Tolkien. He basically admitted to role.
Yeah,
Dowry Hole was fan fiction.
Yeah. I know.
What's up, Kaylee? Thank you. Yes, everyone smashes the like button. Everyone doesn't. People don't know what a metaphor is. Yes.
Yeah. No kidding. No kidding. So, anyways.
Heck. But yeah, like, they literally cannot. That particular sentence they can't even use. Like, the information. Like, people need to understand the information that we are reading. They don't have access to anything that we talk about that they could have done. They can't do.
And the reason we're doing this is because we want to be able to see through their shenanigans.
Yes. Because, like, if you remember, like, earlier on, we did go through the appendices. There ain't much there.
It's really not.
Like, if you
Tale of Years is really short.
Like, if you purely just have the appendices, The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, they do mention things in the First and Second Age. They mention them passing.
Yeah.
But also, they don't
short.
describe Galadriel as a warrior. They like,
yeah, yeah. The Tale of Years in the appendices is like 3 pages long. It's just a timeline. Okay, but switching gears a little bit, I want to bring up. So remember last week that we learned about the couple that should have gone through extensive premarital counseling before they ever got married. Seaboy.
No, not Turin. Which he should have gone through care counseling as well.
Yeah, he should have. Eldarian.
Yes.
Eldarian. There you go. Thank you. He shows up, and now, in light of last week's reading, this makes so much more sense because Sauron is literally knocking on Gil-galad's door.
Yes.
And now we understand like why they needed the Númenóreans so badly. This story, it makes so much more sense now.
Yeah, like,
because he's mentioned. He is literally mentioned.
And they want to make how many seasons? 5? Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, like we get a big if they had access to this book everything would be different, but
Yes.
they don't. Anywho, the story like of Gil-galad and Elrond, like Sauron is literally like taking over Middle Earth. He's like, I'm here, guys. I'm gonna take you all out.
Deal with it.
And not on a date.
Well, I'm sure Amazon will have things to say about that. Yeah. But literally here at the bottom of 240, news of these things came to Sauron's ears, and increased the fears he felt concerning the comings of the Númenóreans to Lindon and the coast further south, and their fellowship with Gil-galad. And he also heard about Elrond, the son of Talmondir, the king of the Númenóreans, who is now a great shipbuilder and brought his vessels down to the far down to Herod. And so Sauron is literally afraid of these guys. This is where you can see that fear creeping in, that Sauron realizes that something is coming, and that's when he starts marching on Eriador and Lindon. And this is why this guy was in Middle Earth so much away from his wife, because Gil-galad is like, I am effed. I need help.
Yeah, he's literally like, I have no one else to turn to.
Yep.
You all and you've been coming to Middle Earth helping me this whole time. But at the end of the day, he still could have told his father, hey, I've been going to war with Sauron. Please, I need your approval to keep going. Yes.
And he could have just told his wife, war is coming.
I'm going to war. I can't imagine any woman in her right mind, once again, emphasizing in her right mind, and very good woman, would be like, no, dear, you can't go help your friends in war.
Fighting against one of Morgoth's fallen emissaries.
Oh
so I thought that was a great tie-in, because I'm like, oh, this makes so much more sense now. That's why he was Middle Earth so often. So that letter from Gil-galad to the king was really put into a great light in this part. And just this whole bit about Gil-galad shut out all of Sauron's emissaries, and even Sauron himself. Dude, the level of Gil-galad's stones to be like, nope, you are not coming in here. But Sauron found better fortune of the Noldor and Aragorn, and especially with Celeborn, who desired in his heart to rival the skill and fame of Fëanor. There we go back to that pride thing. Poor Celeborn.
Yep. I mean, he sure got his pride taken out.
Yeah, he realized his mistake. I mean, he realized his mistake, and he paid for it, but he owned it in the end, which I give him props for.
To be technical, the war that Sauron started when he found out that Celeborn made the three and hid the other rings away was not to conquer Aragorn, but to turn the entire region into ash.
Yeah, no, we're getting there, but it's interesting that things are ramping up, and this is why Gil-galad is asking for the Númenóreans for their help, because he can see what's coming. He's like, something bad is on the horizon, and there is too much darkness that's flowing out of the south for us to just sit here and ignore it.
Right, literally at some point in time, Sauron almost had all of the west.
Yeah.
And then also remembering that because of the Alderon, whatever his name is a bad father, his daughter didn't help Gil-galad.
Yeah. She's like, no, I'm not going to do that.
Good luck. Well, she also didn't know. She had no idea. No one had any idea.
Numenor's biggest problem is communication. Just gonna throw it out there. So and then this is when Sauron starts working with Fëanor, the cozying of the smiths of Aragorn by Sauron and his giving himself the name of Anatar, the Lord of the Guest, is told in the Rings of Power, but there is no mention of Galadriel. So again, a lot of back and forth in this story.
Do they have? No, they don't have it. Of the Rings of Power. That's a book, right? Of the Rings of Power, right? That's a book.
Hold on. Yes. Hold on.
Because I would have, if it is a book, if not, whatever. But if it is a book,
no, wait, isn't that that's an appendix? I thought.
Maybe that
Sorry,
is.
keep writing. Keep
Well,
writing,
if it is
keep
a
reading.
book and they don't have access to this is the one book I think they should have gotten access to. Chapter in the Silmarillion.
Oh, that's right. It's a chapter.
Oh,
that's right.
yes.
Sorry.
Oh my
Thank
god.
you. Thank you, Bob. We've got a lot of information floating around in our brains.
Yes.
That's right. It's a chapter.
Because it sounded
Well, the
very...
thing is, they've got it italicized. Chapters should be in quotation marks. So that was confusing because this is italicized. That's wrong. This should be in quotation marks.
Oh!
That's why I was confused. I was like, what the Rings of Power? What are you talking about? That's not a book.
Well, yeah.
So that should be
it's
italicized. Yeah. No, it should
so
be
I thought it was a book.
Yeah, same
Proper
here.
grammar.
And you know what's funny? And well, no, okay, never mind. We'll get there. Or no, okay, that's where we are. And again, like this is just going back to how strong and like again that like Sauron would not confront Galadriel because he knew her power was so great he would be defeated. In this 241, he perceived at once Sauron that Galadriel would be his chief adversary and obstacle, and he endeavored therefore to placate her, bearing her scorn with outward patience and courtesy. And I'm just like, you do, and this goes back to
there's a reason that she never liked him.
Well, and also you do not, going back to Liv Tyler's comment about Arwen, you don't need to put a sword in her hands to make her strong.
Yep.
She is strong enough of her own being feminine and herself to stand up to Sauron. That's how strong she was. You do not need to have her scaling cliffs in full plate armor with a dagger to make her strong.
And even if you wanted to somewhat be realistic, because yeah, Lord of the Rings is a little fantastical, but it is also realistic in some regard. You don't scale mountains with a dagger.
In plate armor.
In plate armor. In full plate armor. With no padding, no cloak, no nothing. Like, they did what? What is this? Sorry. Continue.
Okay. No, it's fine. Arkansas says, Lage, I love how you were pointing out all the mistakes in that article. Yeah, that was so irritating. My editor brain was, and there were some, like, they didn't put a space in between words, like italicized words and the next word. And there were also a couple places where they didn't put a space in between a period and the next word. It was so irritating. Looper needs an editor. Not me. Used to work for that guy. But, so anyway, so like literally this woman is strong enough. She saw through him immediately. She's a strong woman in and of herself. She does not need to be a warrior leading armies. It's so disrespectful. Like it's just so disrespectful to who she is.
Well, also, a little bit later on, right after that paragraph, just kind of understanding, like, for those of you who don't know the Astari are the wizards in the Middle Earth, but Sauron posed, like, he was like the Lord of Gifts, he posed as an emissary of the Valar, anticipating the arrival of the Astari. Like, he knew the wizards were coming, and so he's like, I gotta do something about this.
Going back to Meteor Man, which Rosie Gamgee, she's not here this morning, but she did a really good, she put a really good comment on my video about that, about how Meteor Man could be Tom Bombadil, and maybe we can get that to that next week. But I don't know, like if that's like if they're drawing on that Sauron knew the Astari were coming and that he's posing them, like why not take a grand entrance that completely goes against what's in the Silmarillion and give Sauron a flaming entrance, shall we say? So,
he's flaming.
So anyways, but going on from that on the next page, you know what I wrote down on my margin, because this is where we get that Galadriel received Nenya, her white ring. And it's funny. So Nenya, the white ring from Celeborn, and by its power, the land of Lothlorien was strengthened and made beautiful, but its power upon her was great, and also also and unforeseen, for it increased her latent desire for the sea and for returning into the West, so that her joy in Middle Earth was diminished. And I think it's interesting, throughout there is like this common theme in Tolkien's writing that power corrupts. Like power has a price, and she paid it. So I thought that was a really interesting, like, she has this wonderful ring that makes Lothlorien what it is, but it literally diminished her joy in Middle Earth, which is what she always wanted.
Yeah, her whole thing was she wanted to rule in Middle Earth and just be in Middle Earth. It is important to note Sauron was so powerful that no one besides Galadriel could even detect that Anatar was not really what he said he was. Yes.
Yep, absolutely.
But yeah, that is also, like, that's kind of sad, because, like, the one thing she wanted her whole life, she finally got it, but she couldn't enjoy it because...
Yeah, sad. You know, it's just like Lord of the Rings, and just, you know, we're a fandom that is deeply intelligent, and like reading his books and stuff just gives us such a deep appreciation for Tolkien's work. But it's funny. It's not funny, but it kind of is. How, like, desperately sad a lot of this story is. There's just like so little joy.
Well, also, like, I'm also, I think it was I forget, was it last Sunday or the Sunday before, something where we went over that article that talked about the top 5 things that are better than...
Oh, yeah.
Like, if you look at that and think about the primary audience they're after the Marvel fans. They're after I need a joke every 5 minutes, or this is not a good show. Like, they're trying to cater to that kind of audience, whereas, like, what you just said with Tolkien, it is very sad, it's very somber, it's very real and deep, and in order to understand all of the intricacies and all of the details that he put in his story, you have to be intelligent and have an IQ higher than room temperature.
Yep. Yep. So yeah, no, you're right. That's really well said, that they do. They want the Marvel audience that needs those stupid slapstick jokes, you know, to have a story that literally, I mean, Galadriel and Celeborn call it the long defeat. They know that they're going to that eventually they'll leave and they'll have to turn it over to the rule of man, and they know what men are capable of, that they can be good, but for the most part what they have seen has been bad. So they know that at the end of the day, they're going to be defeated come hell or high water. So it's pretty desperately sad, you know?
Yes.
So,
well, that is life in general. Often you get the thing at the wrong point in life to really enjoy it. Yeah. This show is after Game of Thrones fans. They want to replicate Game of Thrones success with this, thus all the sex and other nonsense added to it. Yeah, it's one of those things. It could have been, if they had done this right, it could have been the next Game of Thrones, but for different reasons. Like, Game of Thrones was known for being super raunchy and all of that, like, extra stuff that really don't need. But, like, high fantasy, like Lord of the Rings and like what Tolkien's Legendarium is, like, modern day people still want it. The Northmen, literally, like, we still want that stuff, but we don't want it to always be in a either super raunchy form, or it has to be slapstick comedy every 5 seconds. There's
a reason that Patrick Rothfuss's The Kingkiller Chronicles are so popular. Now, we've been waiting for book 3 for 10 years now, so God knows if that'll ever come to fruition. But the first book, like, literally Harry Potter, like, I saw this meme on Pinterest, and it was like, Harry Potter, oh, my life's so sad, I lived under a cabinet, and Kvolf from the Name of the Wind, it's like, hold my beer. That story is, like, disturbingly sad, but it's high fantasy, so it's like, even though it's horrible, it's like, oh my gosh, this is so good. I read that book, and it's huge. The first book is like that big. I think I had read that book in like 3 days. I could not put it down. And A Wise Man's Fear is just as desperately sad, but there's something so intriguing about it. So you're right. People still want that level of high fantasy. We don't always need to have a happy story. I mean, Lord of the Rings more or less ends on a happy note. but there's still like, I mean, literally Tolkien writes that the greatest sorrow of the Third Age, think of everything that happened in the Third Age, the greatest sorrow was when Elrond had to say goodbye to his daughter. Tolkien literally put that in the book, that was the greatest sorrow of the Third Age. That's horrible. A father having to say goodbye to his daughter.
Knowing that she's going to have a horrible, like, death.
Yeah. He'll never see his grandkids. It's awful. It's awful.
Yes. Like, just the... Like, you don't just kind of on that, like, when you first read that and you're like, oh, the greatest, sorrow in Middle-earth, his father saying bye to his daughter. It's sad, but it doesn't quite... until you think about it on a deeper level, which Tolkien fans do, because that is who we are. We look at things and we're like, what is the deeper meaning? Because we know Tolkien has a deeper meaning. Mm-hmm. When you think about it, it's like, oh, his daughter is an elf, or half elf choosing to be a human, meaning her line will also be human.
Yep.
Meaning I am never going to see anyone from my family or my legacy ever again.
And I mean, I go back to him getting off the boat and Celebrian being like, where's my daughter? And him having to tell his wife, who has not seen her daughter for like, I think 1,200 years, being like, well, you're never going to see her. And she won't be in the houses of...
the elves.
The houses of the elves. Like, she will die. And
she'll be with men, but also like knowing her life is still way longer than Aragorn's, and she's going to just sit there and watch everyone she ever knew die.
Yep.
Everyone, including her own children.
Exactly. Yep. Oh, I hadn't thought about that part. But you know what I find interesting? Because again, Tolkien was so deliberate with his words. Like I just said, of everything that happened in the Third Age, he put it in there that the greatest sorrow was Elrond having to say goodbye to his daughter. That was a deliberate, he didn't just like, I'm just going to throw this in. I find it interesting that he puts in the appendices that Celeborn did not, he left like the day after Arwen died. So maybe like, because Arwen spent, man, this is a rabbit trail, a good chunk of time, like a couple hundred years in Lothlorien with Celeborn and Galadriel. And I just have to wonder if like he had a really special relationship with his granddaughter. Mm-hmm. That like they were really close, like just, that maybe she was always at his knee learning or something. Like that to me is really touching, that he literally, Tolkien says, Celeborn only left when Elrond was dead. Mm-hmm. That he really loved his granddaughter.
Yes. And Tolkien, like, he lived through both world wars, so he understands grief, like, yes, absolutely. Yes. He understands grief in a way that most people can't fathom.
Yep.
And that's every father feeling if they think she's going to go off with someone that's not good for her. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, like, if someone from different countries married and moved halfway across the world, yes.
Yep.
Absolutely. Like, it's you, to understand that like you will never know any of your offspring, because the elves and even the Valar had no idea where humans went after they died. They were like, we know that that Iluvatar knows he's got a place for them, but we have no idea what happens to men after they die.
Yep.
Imagine not knowing like anything about how men like die or where they go or if anyone ever sees them again or anything. So everyone's under the assumption that when men die, we will never see them again.
Yep. So so there's a bittersweet sadness with all of Tolkien's writings, but yet we keep coming back to it.
Hi, this is a friend of mine, the Daisy Space. Hi,
nice. Nice. Thank you for being here.
Yes, thank you. Oh my gosh, there's so many freaking notifications. Go away. Thank you.
So, you want to get to Arkansas?
Have we already talked about Telporion, which is basically Celeborn's first iteration?
Kind of.
It's mentioned. It's not really kind of gone into
flushed out. Yeah, it's like this is his name, but then actually it's Celeborn.
Yeah, this was my dad thought about doing this. this is kind of what it would have been about.
Yeah. And I just took Celeborn's that name for Celeborn. I mean, Galadriel, that wasn't her name when she was born. Her mom,
yeah, Galadriel is actually a name that Celeborn gave her.
Yeah.
So
her mom, her father, and was it Finrod? All three of them had different names for her, and she settled on Galadriel.
Yes.
I'm glad she
did. I really like it. Out of the names that she is given, I'm just like, no, Galadriel's the prettier one.
Yeah, Galadriel's definitely the prettier one.
Because Galadriel's actually a Cendarian name. It's not
it's not a Noldorian name.
Yes. So yeah.
So anyways, okay, so on the topic of Elrond, let's get to who's actually leading northern armies, shall we?
I think we shall.
So this is on the bottom of 242. And I'm just going to read this because I took great joy in it. So this is when Sauron learned of the repentance and revolt of Celeborn, and his disguise fell, and his wrath was revealed. And gathering a great force, he moved over Rohan to the invasion of Eriador in the year 1695. When the news of this reached Gil-galad, he sent out a force under Elrond, half-elven, but Elrond had so far to go, and Sauron turned north and made once again for Aragorn. The scouts and vanguard of Sauron's host were already approached when Celeborn made a sortie and drove them back. But though he was able to join his forces with that of Elrond, they could not continue on to Aragorn, for Sauron's host was far greater than theirs, and great enough both to hold them off and closely invest Aragorn. So let's just get this out of the way, shall we? Her husband and her son-in-law are leading armies, not Galadriel.
Oh my.
Drink. Is that going to stick now?
Every time that we say Elrond, yes. Every time we say, y'all are going to have to remind us. Every time we say Elrond, we're going to drink some water. Yeah.
Well, it's more me. It's more my obsession. What do you like the most about Elrond? So the fact he never gave up. Like literally, his parents vanished. The guys who were responsible for the falling of his father's realm with Beren and Luthien, that then adopted them because they felt bad that they stole these kids' parents, jumped off cliffs and committed suicide. He had to step up and be Gil-galad's steward and flag bearer. And then he, like, the amount of people he saw die right in front of him, like, he
literally saw Celebrimborn's body on a pike being flung around like a flag.
Like, literally in his face. And then when Gil-galad died, when Gil-galad died, it was him, Gil-galad, Elendil, Isildur, and one other elf who I can never remember his name. It starts with a C, standing up against Sauron. He literally saw his king, his cousin, his liege, and his best friend get burned to death right in front of his eyes. You know what he had to take home to Rivendell? His spear and his shield. That was literally it. That man has been through hell, and he never gave up.
Yes.
So that is why.
If you remember reading that, it is a version of Galadriel and Celeborn's story about fighting together against the kinslaying. That's one of the versions that Tolkien wrote for how they met, but he did not go with that.
Yeah. Círdan. Oh, was it Círdan that? I thought it was somebody else. Okay, so it was Círdan. Okay, so the three goats of the Second Age were standing together, and one of them gets burned alive. Sorry, but just Elrond, I don't know. He literally never gave up. He never gave up. So that's why Elrond's my favorite.
Yes, the quote is, of all of those who stood against Sauron that day, only Isildur yeah.
Okay, sorry. Thank you, Thad. This is why we love having you here.
Yes.
So yeah, that's that. So yeah, I mean, like it's not. This isn't like a shadow. Like maybe could be. No, it is written down that Elrond, who's not a politician, he was out leading these armies. It was Elrond. Elrond was in charge, and Celeborn just happened to join him.
Yes. He
was not in Khazad-dûm striking treaties.
Right. Like literally. Like. So yeah, that's one thing that we need to. That's already a canon breaking thing. That's just one thing out of the things that we've already discussed. Like literally, he was not in Khazak Doom at
No.
this time. Like
Nope.
he was pushing back Sauron. Like if depending on, granted, they're condensing the timeline, so things could be just super spotty and jumpy around. But even when when Sauron was making the 7 rings for the Dwarven Fathers, because we're still not sure who gave the ring to Durin. Some people think that it was the elves. Some people think that it was Sauron himself. But during that time, Elrond was not there at all.
No.
In fact, Galadriel was probably around at that time in Khazak Doom, because wasn't it Khazak Doom, or was it a different? Was it because she was in one of the dwarven strongholds, and that's
she was
why
in Khazad Doom.
So she was in Khazak Doom, not Elrond.
Yeah, they literally just switched their places.
They did.
Now that I've just heard you say that, they literally just switched their places. That's what they've done. I just it just now hit me. That's what they did. They just swapped their places.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. Well, there's a period of time, so because sometimes I get my timelines confused too. There was a period of time where Gil-galad, Elrond, Celeborn, and several others were fighting back Sauron, and then the Númenóreans kind of came at the last minute and helped them. And then there was almost 1,000 years, was it, of peace, where Sauron was rebuilding his forces, and then the War of the Last Alliance happens.
Yeah, I think that's accurate.
Because if they're talking about the War of the Last Alliance, which I don't think they are, then it's still wrong, but it's wrong in a different way.
Yeah.
But if they're talking about the War of Wrath, because this is called the War of Wrath, right? Or
yeah.
So if they're talking about the War of Wrath, Galadriel.
No. The War of Wrath is the first stage. This is This is the war. Which I don't remember what it's called in the second age, because the War of the Rings is the third age. Thad, do you know? I can't remember, because the War of the Wrath is first age. That's Morgoth.
Right, yeah. Sorry, guys. There's several wars that happen, and they're named different things.
So hold on. Yeah, okay, so here we go. I found it. So all of a sudden, this Tale of Years in the appendices makes so much more sense. So the War of the Elves and Sauron begins. The 3 rings are hidden. So that's 693.
Oh, yeah, it's called the War of the Elves. Yeah.
The War of the Elves. Sauron's forces invade Eriador. Gil-galad sends Elrond to Aragon. Aragon's laid waste. Death of Celebrimbor. The gates of Moria are shut. Elrond retreats with remnants of the Noldor and finds refuge in Imladris, which is 1697. 1699, Sauron overruns Eriador. Tennis Minister sends a great navy from Numenor to Lindon. Sauron is defeated, so that's 1700. And so it's literally, so it's 100 years, 1800. From about this time onward, the Númenóreans begin to establish great dominions on coast. Sauron extends his power to eastward. The shadow falls on Numenor, and then it's 1,000 years. It's 1,000 years later, 2251. Tar Anamatar takes the scepter. Rebellion and division begins in Numenor. It's about this time the Nazgul or Ringwraiths first appear. So it's 1,000 years of peace.
Okay. So more or less timeline, what happens is Sauron creates the rings. He realizes he's been caught. He goes to war with the elves, but it's just the elves, except for the Númenóreans come in at the last second and help push back Sauron. And Sauron is defeated. He goes back and he rebuilds his power base. He tries to go to war, but during this time, the Númenóreans are becoming corrupted. They're becoming the quote-unquote black Númenóreans. Because they're getting power hungry. They're making strongholds in Middle Earth to the original idea of the strongholds was to help push, like, keep Sauron at bay. But what ended up happening is they were using them for like a power base, so they could, like whatever. And during that time, some of the rings were given to some Númenóreans because some of the ring race are Númenóreans. So like 1,000 years of peace, everyone's just kind of ready to go to war. Then the new Sauron tries to go to war, but the Númenórean king is like, nah, I'm gonna take over. You're gonna be, and he captures Sauron, takes him back. And then after the fall of Númenor, the War of the Last Alliance happens. This is all like 1,000 years or more in the making. So before the War of the Last Alliance, there is this quote unquote smaller war between Sauron and just the elves. So the Gil-galad, Elrond, Celeborn, and then they're about to be overrun, and the Númenóreans come in at the last moment.
It's actually 2,000 years. So between Sauron overthrowing Eriador and the Battle of the Last Alliance, that's well over 2,000 years. So yeah, it's a long stretch of time.
Yeah, that's like thousands of years, and that is the prime time that is going to be covered in Rings of Power.
And this is going to happen like maybe within
a few
50 years,
maybe,
if that. So yeah. So okay, so after Elrond and Celeborn kind of sort of hold off Sauron's forces, this is where Sauron captures Celebrimborn.
Yes.
And that poor man is tortured to death.
Yes.
Yeah, his death is really horrible.
It's bad.
Yeah, it's really horrible. So I mean, I think and he didn't say anything. So it's he made them in his pride, but at least he stuck to his guns and didn't say anything about them. So yeah, I don't know how much we want to say about that, but
he when he was being tortured, he didn't give up the 3 elven rings. He gave up every other ring of power, but he didn't give up the 3 elven ones, because those are the ones he actually cared about.
Yeah.
Because he made them himself, and he was like, these are mine.
Yeah. And this is when Sauron puts Celebrimborn's body, hung upon a hole, shot through with orc arrows. He turned upon the forces of Elrond. So.
He was a porcupine on a spike.
Yes. So, and like in light of that, it's after this point that Elrond really establishes Rivendell. Like, I now understand why it was such a beautiful, like, it was like known as a place of peace and rest. Because, dear God, did that man need some peace and rest? No wonder he made Rivendell what it was, because he's, again, been through hell.
If they just adapted what they have rights to and kept to what Tolkien actually wrote, they could make dozens of good TV shows. Heck yeah.
Heck yes.
There's tons of material. If they had just bought the rights to either the Unfinished Tales or the Silmarillion, either one of these books, they could have had a great TV show.
That would be like 10 seasons worth of information.
Like, thousands upon thousands of years happen.
Yeah.
Like, tons of stories to tell. They could have gone on so many side tracks. They could have been like, so during Middle-earth, when the Númenóreans were doing this thing, here's what was going on in Middle-earth, because we don't really know a lot of what was happening in Middle-earth because we switch over to the Númenóreans for a while. Like, they could have explored what the men were doing and how they were going crazy and psycho and doing all of the bad things. Like,
yep.
I want a Tom Bombadil miniseries. That's because the Elven rings were the only ones not touched by Sauron in the making. They were still pure, technically, but they were used with the same techniques that Sauron taught Celebrimbor. So that in that regard, they were still under the control of the One Ring.
Yeah, this whole section from like 242 to 245, man. Gil-galad, Celeborn, Elrond, Celebrimborn, and Círdan to a certain extent. Man, these guys are the goats of Middle-earth. They are constantly just running around, reinforcing each other. Like, their realms are constantly under attack.
And we do get one mention of Rohan, which I like Rohan. And
Yeah,
so,
that was cool.
So it makes me
really
happy.
cool.
But where were the men? What were the men of Rohan doing when all of this was going on?
They weren't there yet, I thought, because I thought that they don't get established until Gondor is established, because the Gondorians gave that land to the Rohirrim. Like, they were men.
I thought there were men there. So what? When Gondor came and they were like, "Hey, there are still some quote unquote good men," and that's who became Rohan, and that race of men, because they realized, like, the Númenóreans realized when we left that I guess there were some good men that still stayed behind of the House of Bayar and Hurin.
That's right. That's right.
And so that's what these were quote unquote their ancestors that chose to stay behind, but they weren't considered the dark men, so there were three races of men. There were the high men, which was the Númenóreans, the middle men, which are Rohan, and then the dark men, which are the what are they called? The
Haradrim and those people.
Yeah, I can't remember their names.
Yeah. So yeah, no, maybe you're right. I couldn't. I just
Well, they might not have been quote unquote in Rohan at that time, but
they were around.
They were around. They were still there. What was going on? Like, where were they? Well, I want to know what they were doing. Mm-hmm. We could have made a whole show based on the history of Rohan and what the heck they were doing during this time.
Yeah.
I can make Amazon. You need to hire me, man.
Not kidding. Be too logical.
But buying the rights and histories about the show would be way too logical.
Yeah.
So consider this. We know Sauron can wield the One Ring in spirit form. He carried it back from Númenor in spirit form. When Sauron had his body destroyed, they had maybe a couple minutes to grab the ring.
It's interesting. Yeah.
There are so many cool things and cool ideas that they could have done, and they're gonna do
this.
They're gonna have fake elves with fake other humans that are made up. They're just gonna do completely made up stories.
Yeah.
Like, there are so many things they could do, and they're just making up crap.
Yeah.
It's so sad.
So, anyways, well, okay, so this whole last bit to 245 again in this book is literally just like Celeborn, Elrond, and Gil-galad running around putting out fires. Like, to put it in a nutshell, that's what we're doing. However, I want to bring something up that made me slightly teary last night. So in 245, and I'm sorry, I know I keep going down rabbit trails, but so Celeborn and Galadriel. Okay, there's something we need to establish. That I consider that this is throughout all of these like different kind of rewritings of their story and everything. The timing seems to be different. Like, he doesn't seem to be able to make his mind about when this happened. But Galadriel and Celeborn were never like the official rulers of Lothlorien. They were there, and then they left, and then they would go back, and then they would leave, and then Galadriel would be there by herself for a couple hundred years, and then she'd leave. So they were like Galadriel established Lothlorien, but they weren't its official rulers, and they left like a lot. And there was a time when Lothlorien was under attack, and so Celeborn and Galadriel and Celebrian left and went to Rivendell, and they stayed there for quite some time. I just have to say that there it seemed oh no, it was Galadriel. It was just Galadriel and Celebrian who left Lothlorien this first time seeking Celeborn. So they left Lothlorien seeking Celeborn because, again, remember, he refused to travel through Moria because he's like, I'm not going to be around dwarves. And this is like a several-day journey. That's how big Moria is. So he's like, yeah, no, I'm not going. So there it seems she found him in Imladris in Rivendell. And there they dwelt together for a long time. And it was then that Elrond first saw Celebrian and loved her, though he said nothing of it. I'm sorry. Did Tolkien just say that Elrond was too shy to tell a girl he liked her?
Yes.
Did the bookworm introvert all of a sudden see a girl he liked and he couldn't say anything? He was too tongue-tied.
The hero, the person who's been through literal hell and high water, and it's like, oh, there's a pretty girl.
he goes and hides in his books. That is my headcanon, and I'm sticking to it.
Was their home, not their kingdoms.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. They thought of themselves as stewards. So anyways, I thought that was so freaking touching. I had no idea. I did not know, because I know it took that they didn't get married until the Third Age after the War of the Ring. Like it took them 1,200 years to get married. But literally Celeborn was too shy to say anything. This is so freaking darling. Just Tolkien thought of everything. That man was a genius.
They didn't buy those things because if they did, they couldn't add all of the woke stuff to it. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Doesn't Warner have the rights to Rohan? Yes and no.
Yeah,
yes
that's up
no.
for debate right now. They're in a legal battle.
Yes.
So anyways, I don't know, like, we just were talking about how desperately sad these stories are and that Tolkien didn't pull his punches, but he again took time to think of like these little moments of happiness and love and hope, and that he wrote a character that was literally too shy to say something to the pretty girl who just moved in. So anyways, sorry, that's my rabbit trail.
But it is funny, like, you think about all the things that this poor man has been through, and it's just pretty girl pulls up, and he's just like,
I'm gonna go hide in my library.
I've got a library, I'm gonna
be over there. So anyways, I wanted to point that out. And yes, they didn't get married until after the War of the Ring. So yeah, anyways, that's what I wanted to bring up.
The rights under which they are doing War of the Rohirrim is in the same license as Peter Jackson's trilogy. Whether they keep them, who knows? I am upset at Warner as well, because the only reason they're even doing this is to hold on to the little rights that they do have. This could have been, Warner Brothers could have done so much and gotten so much money, but no, it's like, they're like a dragon. They sat on the gold hoard. They didn't want anyone to touch it. They didn't want to do anything with it. They just wanted it.
Well, again, they stopped those 20 edition special editions that we were supposed to get. We were supposed to get every single deleted scene that was ever, like, that there's that whole segment of Elrond in Lothlorien getting Arwen to go back. Like, there is so much stuff that we have not seen. We were supposed to get all of that, and Warner Brothers stopped it.
So it's their fault. If you want to be mad at Amazon, be mad at them for some reason, a little bit, yes. But it's Warner Brothers' fault.
It is.
It's their fault. If they had actually done stuff, instead of just, Amazon's doing a thing, we need to do a thing now.
Mm-hmm. So, okay, I have a question. We are approaching our 2-hour mark, and we unfortunately do have stuff and we've only gotten through like half of this. Do we want to finish the rest of this chapter like next week?
I mean, for the most part, it's a lot of, like, this chapter has appendices for itself, guys.
Quite a few of them too.
Yeah, I think we can start off next week's episode with going over this last little bit, but
like we could start with Nimrodel and Armoth and go over that. And like we could finish the whole rest of this chapter and its appendices and then start in on the Third Age.
Yes.
Chat, what do you think?
Yeah, just finish it next week. That's why Spider-Man keeps getting made. Gotta keep coming up. Yep.
Because I don't know, this whole Nimrodel thing, I'm a little confused about why this is even in Galadriel.
And Legolas is actually mentioned, guys, for you Legolas fans out there. He's mentioned in this chapter.
Quite a few times, actually. I totally okay. Fun fact, the prince that is mentioned in here, if you watch The Return of the King, this guy shows up like twice. But he's in Gondorian armor. He has long blonde hair. And when Gandalf rescues Faramir's men who are running away from Osgiliath, like when Gandalf rides out and defeats the Nazgul, when they ride through the gates of Gondor, there's a guy who comes down and is like, "We need reinforcements!" Like he's yelling at Gandalf. That prince is the prince that's mentioned in here. He was not credited, and his names aren't on the credits, but that's who that was. So yeah, that was an obscure fact, but there you go. So okay, so finish it next week. We'll finish up with Nimrodel, this kind of weird offshoot story, and the Elisar. which is where we get
Yes.
Gandalf for the first time.
Yes, and where we get the reason why Aragorn's other name is Elisar.
Yeah, which is an important moment in Lord of the Rings. And we will also finish up the appendices, because there's a whole appendix in here that like makes Thranduil's characterization in The Hobbit so much clearer.
It makes sense why he is the way he is. I love it.
Nice, yeah. See, he was my great love in high school, but then I kind of, I don't know. As I grew up, I was like, no, I like Elrond.
When you're but a young lass, you like Legolas, but when you become a woman,
right?
like Elrond.
Exactly. So, all right, got
Ark. No, he's not a pointy-eared idiot.
well.
Yes, he does lose Golem, but Golem's not that easy to find and keep hold of. Apparently, like
Well,
even Sauron, like had a hard time finding him.
Yeah. Well, and like it was supposed to be Glorfindel, and then for some odd reason he changed his mind, and so that's why Legolas is so underdeveloped, is because it was supposed to be Glorfindel who went with the Fellowship, but then he changed his mind. So, anyways,
Poor Legolas.
I know. Okay, so we will finish up next week, but we hope that this is kind of like, again, to me, this was the most important chapter that we were going to go over of this book, because they have said how Galadriel heavy this show is going to be, and this is really where we can, even with the inconsistencies, even though Christopher is like, my father rewrote this section like 3 times, and every time it was different, and like, is she banned from Valinor? Is she not? Was it her pride? Like, even all this back and forth stuff, regardless of all of that, this is really what will establish how we can look through and see through Amazon's twisting of because I'm sorry, we can say that they don't have access to this stuff till they're blue in the face. Nothing is stopping them from going to Barnes and Nobles and picking up this book. If they change it enough, they can get away with it.
Yes. Well, especially like that's the reason why they're making up totally original characters, because they can do anything they want with those totally original characters. Yep. They don't have to do anything like with the main characters if they don't want to. He's adorably sassy. Remember when he sassed Gandalf?
Yes. Yes, he is full of sass.
I like watching your stream so I can understand just how bad the Amazon show is going to be.
Aw, thank you.
If you want to see a great Lord of the Ring fan film, look for a video called The Search for Golem. Ooh, I've heard stories about that.
I've never heard of this. Oh, I'm going to have to look that up.
Yes. Sass in a dire situation. Nah, not for me. Good for you, but he... sorry, The Hunt for Golem. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, The Hunt for Golem.
Okay, cool.
I feel like that'll be like super cool and amazing. It'll probably be better than what Amazon's spitting out.
Have you heard of the new game that's coming out?
Yeah,
it's the entirety of Lord of the Rings through Golem's eyes. You just play Golem.
I have not.
Here, hold on. We can. Well, you know what? Let's end on that note. So, guys, we will finish up the chapter of Celeborn and Galadriel next week with the appendices, because one of the appendices is pretty good sized, and I think we need to do it justice. Here we go. I'll share this.
Phil says, you both are fun. I don't need to lose brain cells to read. You both do it for me.
All right, there you go if you want to share that. Oh, well, hold on. That's okay. It's going to be a disaster. That's this is okay. So it literally launches the same day that the show does. It's coming out on the 2nd. But it's starring Golem that first revealed. Okay, no, September 1st, so the day before. Yeah, but what's it about? Players will also have an opportunity to react to situation as Golem or his kinder self Smeagol, and your choices can be consequences for the game's story down the line. Okay. Golem's shadowy nature from the books and movies, you won't be surprised to hear that you'll be doing a lot of sneaking around and getting to where you need to be. But the video game featured quite a bit of environmental transversal as well. Golem spent a lot of time scaling walls and making great leaps to avoid hazards. Yeah, so I think it's supposed to be like all the pieces that are in Lord of the Rings that we don't see in the movies, because a lot happened with Gollum in other places in Middle-earth. I think that's what it's supposed to be, but I don't know. We'll see.
So a lot of people are saying that this is going to be trash.
Yeah, I have no desire to play this. I just think it's interesting that they chose Gollum of all characters to do this.
I think it's a very interesting concept because like some people are curious, like what was Gollum's life like? What happened? I would be interested. I might play. I might play it and do a review on it or something maybe later on down the road.
That'd be good.
But I find the concept interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, anyways, I'm still salty I didn't get an Xbox, that I didn't realize I could have played that Hobbit game. That Hobbit game was so stinking good. I'm still salty. But anyways,
my favorite Lord of the Ring film is called Born of Hope. It's about the birth of Aragorn. Ooh. So this is supposed to be a game built to shield a show. It will be trash and it'll be low quality and repetitive. Aw. We'll find. I'll remind me next stream, and I will look it up and possibly purchase it. Maybe I might not. I don't know. But if I do purchase it, I will do a review on it.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, just real quickly before we end here. Sorry, I'm the person who thinks ahead. So next week on my channel, we will finish up this history of Galadriel and Celeborn. Looking ahead to part 3, the Third Age, the disaster of the Gladden Fields, which is mentioned in the appendices to the history of Galadriel and Celeborn, is actually a quite short chapter. So why don't we bank on this? Why don't we do the first hour? We will do the last bit of the history of Galadriel and Celeborn chapter, and then we go ahead and tackle the disaster of the Gladden Fields, because that seems to play a pretty big part, especially in Thranduil's storyline, who isn't mentioned all that much. But his father fell in the disaster of the Gladden Fields. So why don't we cover that chapter? Because it's quite short.
Have I not made you a mod? Oh, Streamlabs? Looking at Streamlabs now. Sorry, give me a second.
It's okay.
Da, da, da.
Here, I'll get my...
Thank you, Lulu. Love you, Mando, and says so happy to see you two succeeding. And then we've got, I don't know if this is a screen name or not. I assume it is Silverlock. Just some positive encouragement. Aww. Thank you, guys. And I will make sure to somehow split it half with Elijah.
No. This is your channel. What? That is your well-deserved.
Thank you.
You're welcome. That is your Mulan to do as with you will. Here is my channel.
Yes. Sorry, I will fix that. Ark, I will make you a mod on this channel. I thought I already did for some reason, but yeah, next week it will be on Elijah's channel. Yes. I always have to point in the opposite direction that I think is, because I want to point in this direction. It's like, no, there's this direction.
Yeah. So to recap, we're finishing up Galadriel and Celeborn, and then we are reading The Disaster of the Gladden Fields, which is the first part of the Third Age.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you guys so much for being here. You guys are amazing and awesome. We love you. Don't forget, Elijah also has a Twitch channel, hopefully coming to all of us soon, where she's going to be playing Fortnite and other games.
As soon as I can get this capture card thing figured out, I will let you all know.
And also make sure to like, follow, subscribe, all of the things to her channel. She does amazing book reviews and stuff, and she has a bookstagram, which all links are in the description down below, to her link tree and my link tree. So all things are in that one place. So make sure you do the things, follow, like, subscribe, do the things.
Yes. Ark, no worries. No. It's fine. Please don't rush. I'm not rushing, so you're fine. All right, yeah, guys, we will see you next week. Thank you guys for the great conversation. As always, we deeply appreciate all of you.
Yes. Bye, guys. Have a great week. See you